Hi, everybody. Welcome to Positive Waves. My name's Matthew Collinson, and this is my good friend.
Joseph Stoma.
So, yeah, we were just talking about how there are some shifts in the world, and it's interesting to watch. Um, because everyone seems to be going through the same stuff at the same time, like a bunch of like either you're really tired or you're seeing a lot of things creep up on you, like things are happening and you don't like it because it's not in your control kind of thing.
Right. I've been seeing a lot more of like appliances, vehicles, computers, things like that are just randomly like breaking. Like, I just bought that 5 days ago and it exploded on me. Like, look, for me, the other week, my hot water tank went out, brakes on my vehicle. Like, there's a bunch that's going on. And my current one is my screen, the screen on my laptop, the hinge broke. Now my screen has a crack in it. And because it's touch screen, it keeps entering info wherever the screen's touching or wherever the crack is touching. So I keep getting all these random pages popping up and the screen keeps cutting in and out. Like, it's been driving me nuts having to do calls when it's on the fritz, I guess we would say. Some days it's fine and it's happy because it's been cracked for about 5 or 6 days now. And it's fine some days, but today it just wants to give me the strobe effect. So I see you, you're gone. I see you, you're gone. It's frustrating.
Well, I agree, man. On my previous call to this, I was just talking about it with some people, and the moon cycle just shifted over too. So
That's
that's a
true.
piece.
I didn't even think to look at that, and I know we've talked about it before.
Oh my God, to the death, man. It's crazy, like how easy it is to see, but then you don't think about it, and then you begin. But when you realize it, you're like, oh yeah, and it's kind of like a relief because you're like, oh yeah, I'm not the only one going through this right now.
Right? I'm not alone.
Well, exactly. I think that's a huge piece is knowing that you're not alone.
Mhm.
Like that's why I love having you on Positive Waves with me as my co-host. Like we're just having fun vibing, chilling, sending out these positive waves around the world. Like I just completed that gratitude course, so I have that up in the Ripple and above members. So
That's
yeah,
awesome. Good job.
thank you, thank you. I'm totally glad that I can help people get into that state of gratitude. I'm kind of grateful to be able to do that now because I've done it for so long that it's like, oh yeah, and that's a good idea. I know people have problems getting into gratitude, so here's one solution for you.
Right? Now, what's funny is too is like you said with the moon, we need that reminder every now and then. We just get so much going on that we forget the simple, basic things that should be no brainers. And we got to laugh at it. Or at least me personally, I laugh at myself when I realize, oh, I was being a dumbass, and there we go.
Yeah, I think that it's really fun to watch. I don't like, although when I observe it in my own life, I'm like, wow, how cool is that that we can shift from one end of the spectrum, like being really upset about something, just to be like, let's just keep moving.
Right? Pulling those tools out of the tool belt and you're good to go. But remembering you got them there is the struggle.
Yeah, it takes a minute. Like, I think it's a lifetime practice, really. Like, you're going to find yourself all into the hole of, oh, I didn't, of that anger, for instance, for me is one of my trigger happy things that I run into. I try not to anymore, and I'm getting better about it over the years, but I'm still, still run into it from time to time, especially with my kids, of course.
Bonuses is recognizing it, not being scared to say, yeah, I get angry. Like I told you before we recorded, like if you see me turn my screen off, just know I'm having a meltdown. And like literally right now, I'm recording with my phone, my screen, just so I could show you what it's doing because it drives me nuts. And it's like,
Crazy.
it messes with my eyes, it throws my thoughts off. And it's like, how do I have a great conversation with my friend here when I can't even see him? Like he keeps cutting in and out. He's here, he's gone, he's here.
And yet you're having it, or you could close your eyes too, but that'd look weird on video. It'd be hilarious though.
Sometimes you hear a lot better when you can't see anything.
It's true. It's true. I think that's why like nighttime chats with your loved one helps a lot. Like if you're just lying there, just chit chatting, I guess bed talk, as it were. Uh, I think is an important part of relationships. Like I do. I feel like that's the time when you communicate softly and together and you're getting into a relaxed state to go to bed. Well, hopefully, because that's not always true. But we try. And I think that that's a good piece.
Right? Yeah, it does help too to just have that moment where you can get everything out. I know my partner and I, we've had so much going on lately that we haven't really had that time to sit and talk during the day or to keep caught up with what's going on with each other, with business, with personal life, with friends, family. There's just been so much going on. So to have that moment, it is a blessing.
Yeah, it really is. I think that that's one of my gratitudes actually every day is like I wake up, I'm like, hey, I'm so glad that my kids are safe and my wife is here. I'm in a warm bed kind of thing because I know a lot of people aren't, and that's always saddens me. That's what I like about my friend Alan. Actually, he does a lot of homeless people help and is supporting those kind of causes. And I wanted to now welcome Ray on. He just showed up. So, how are you doing today, Ray?
Good, good. How are you guys?
Excellent, excellent. We were just talking about how the moon cycle just shifted, and we're seeing a lot of like problems happening around us, and that ways to combat that are things like gratitude or other things like that. And it's like, well, I'm so thankful for this, even though this isn't going right.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I could say just in my own life, like the past week or so, has just been there's been a lot of I've been emotionally kind of drained, there's been a lot of like different like things coming up, big decisions, turning points, a lot of things going on. So yeah, I've been like feeling that. We go through these phases, these frequencies of life. So yeah, gratitude definitely combats that. I actually was just um doing my gratitude this morning. And honestly for me, man, just understanding the gift of life is a very good thing to be grateful for instead of looking at everything like why it's not working and feeling like you're confused or you don't know what to do, just instead flipping that and saying like, I do know what to do. It's just taking action. I think people's biggest problem isn't they don't know what to do. It's they don't do it. They don't know that we could all do better, right? To some degree, we all know something we could do to make our lives a little bit better at least. And so it's like, why don't we do that? So gratitude is definitely a good a massive like gate or entry into getting into that point where you get past your own stuckness and you focus because your mind can't think of a positive and a negative at the same time. So if that's something I learned early on in my recovery journey. I used to just have these fits of rage all the time because I was just my life was so jacked up and and I just didn't know how to live. And I actually used to carry around a little tiny snippet of paper with ten things I was grateful for, in my back pocket, and that was like a lifeline to me. Every time I started to feel that emotion of anger, well up inside of me, I just it became habit to reach in my back pocket, pull that out, and just focus on those things, Could have been the smallest thing, but, it really creates a shift. So yeah, especially like, I believe in the moon phase thing, man, because we've been talking about that for years now, and I didn't understand that before, but I think there's something to it. I really do. I really do because it's odd. I go through phases and cycles along with it. I've recognized it. So yeah, there's something to it. So I think in times like that, it's even more important to stay on top. Like the times you don't want to do it, or those times you're like, oh, I can just skip today, or I'm doing good even, and it's so easy to slip back if you're not like constantly pressing forward in your life. Getting your heart and your mind aligned as well. That's another huge thing. But anyway, yeah, gratitude is probably like the single biggest thing. If there was a success habit, that's probably like the best one. And I was taught gratitude's an action word. So I can say I'm grateful for my relationship, with my significant other, for example. But if I don't do anything to show her that, then like I'm not really practicing the gratitude, or I can say I'm grateful to be clean, but if I'm out sneaking shots of alcohol, that's that's not really, you know what I mean? Or the list goes on, or I'm just not living right, or I don't treat people well. Oh, I'm grateful I've made it this far in life and happy for the people who've helped me, but I abuse the clerk at the 7-Eleven. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So it's an action word. It's how we treat people, and ultimately it's a reflection of how we feel about ourselves.
I agree. Joe, you look like you had something on your mind there.
No, just totally agree. And like, you're just talking shit unless you're actually doing it. You can't say I'm living a great life, but you're doing nothing to live a great life. I mean, you want to paint that pretty picture, sure, go ahead and talk all the crap you want to talk, but when it comes down to it, you're freaking dead inside because you're not actually living that great life that you keep trying to convince yourself you're living.
Yep. Yep. Totally. Yeah, definitely agree with that.
Well, thanks for coming on, Ray. Actually, we wanted to have Ray on as a guest because he is doing something special for the world that's going to send out an immense positive wave. So I definitely wanted him back on the show. So welcome back, Ray.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great to be back. I appreciate you guys having me on, man. Um, Go ahead. Go ahead. I'll let you lead into it.
Rock on, man. I'm going to have Ray introduce this whole idea to you. But first, I'd like you to give some people your background, of course, and what you went through, within 5 to 10 minutes or so. And then from there, we can go into what you're doing for the future because of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean some of you guys already know, and then those who don't, so basically to sum it up briefly, I got into drugs at the age of 12. And For me personally, it did start with weed. I think I had my first sip of beer when I was probably, oh, I don't know, younger than that, maybe 8 or 9 at a family reunion. My grandfather gave me a sip of Budweiser, and I was like, oh, that's really good. I thought it tasted good. But that didn't really, alcohol never really was much of a thing. I mean, I've definitely had my moments with it where I've binged and gotten way too drunk, but it was never like this insatiable hunger like other drugs were. So at the age of 12, it progressed quickly. I actually, the funny thing is about, I think it's interesting with my story is I didn't get high the first time I smoked weed. I didn't get high the second time I smoked weed, and it wasn't like it was bad stuff. I didn't get high the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, 10th, 12th time I smoked weed. I had nothing. And so I was like, everybody was telling me how great it is and how much they like it. And I was like so determined to feel that. I'm like, why doesn't it work on me? I just thought maybe something was different in my body that it just didn't work on me. And so I'll never forget one night I was hanging out with some of my old friends in my friend's bedroom. There was just like four of us guys. They were passing a bowl around, and I got like the last like charcoal hit, like the beat hit as we call it. And I got so high. It was the 20th time I smoked. And it felt like my head was like a balloon on a string, like and my head was like literally in the clouds. I could feel my clothes rubbing on me as I was walking down the street, and it was just like very weird. It was out there. And that was kind of like my introduction to like what that was like. And so what even led me down that path in the first place was my parents had separated at that time in my life. And so I was a confused person. My parents were very strict, and I I was very rebellious. I got rebellious because I just couldn't take it. It was like so much on me. I felt, and then so when they split, I know at 12 years old, I didn't know how to process the emotions. And so I just happened to be around some guys in school that were into drugs, and it was offered to me, and I didn't even know what I was getting myself into at all. I had no clue. And I remember out back of a house in an alley after school. Me and a couple buddies were like smoking a joint, and they were putting these little paper squares on their tongue, and I'm like, "What's that?" And they're like, "Oh, it's LSD." And I'm like, "Oh man, don't ever give me that stuff." Then the next weekend, literally, I was begging them to give me some, and then the next weekend it was like ecstasy, and then it just progressed really quick, and then into psychedelics, and then I found a real love in psychedelics, and I went way off the deep end with that. I mean, I was just crazy. And when it might be okay to do a little bit, like for your body and mind is what I'm saying. But when you take them as much as you possibly can, you start to lose touch with reality, and have like these meltdowns and stuff. And so I was starting to have that. So make a long story short, at the age of 13, I was introduced to heroin, and I sniffed it my first time. And then that quickly escalated. When I was 14, I had a buddy, inject me my first time, and then by the time I was 15, I was a full blown heroin addict, shooting up multiple times a day, sticking myself with needles, 3, 5, 10 times a day. And it just went like a wildfire through my life, man. And it got to the point where it wasn't just that, it was anything I could physically get into a needle. Like I would crush up Ritalin, like anything, man, like whiskey. I was just so off the rails. I really was. I was just injecting anything I can get in me. And it consumed my life. At the age of 19, so no clean, I'm just ripping and running all these years. You get into other things, you get into dealing to support your habit, you get into bad things, and you do things you wouldn't normally do, and you hurt people you normally would never hurt. And at the age of 19, I had a near fatal overdose. I mean, I was pronounced dead on arrival. For 16 and a half minutes I was dead. And they revived me. Narcan didn't work. The defibrillator didn't work. They hit me in the heart with adrenaline, a big needle of adrenaline right into the heart. And I just was like, oh, I got to draw the line here, And I actually quit. And I had like a brick a day habit at that point at 19. That's a lot. And I quit cold turkey. I went through this crazy withdrawal. I had an apartment of my own at the time. Somehow I managed that. And I just like locked my doors, closed my blinds, turned my phone off, and went through this like living hell. I mean, I was like puking up my stomach lining. I couldn't move. I couldn't eat for like 2 weeks. I didn't have a bite of food or water. I mean, I was like literally just dying. And um, it was around the 2.5 week mark I started to feel a little physical relief, where I could actually kind of move again a little. And I stayed clean for a little bit, actually, off of heroin for a couple years. But it was just like the white knuckle way. I didn't have any like recovery or therapy or support or people to talk to about it. I just always thought that the problem is the drug. If I could just put the drugs down, then I'd be completely fine. My life would be great. And that wasn't the case. So I still was like dabbling in stuff, pills, popping pills, drinking, smoking, stuff like that. What I would call lighter things. And eventually it kind of led back to heroin again. I was offered it randomly at a car wash one afternoon. I had a pocket full of cash. It was a Friday. I just got paid, and it was just like something engaged in my brain. And yeah, I went full force again, quickly escalate into injecting again. And this is going well into my 20s now, and ended up homeless, uh, just on the streets doing whatever I had to do to get more. Gave away everything I had for drugs, and ultimately, it caused a lot of chaos in my life, and the people's lives around me. And there's so many things that happened, like jails, psych wards, rehabs, halfway house, three-quarter house. Like I did the whole thing, and had a lot of legal trouble. Was like people in my town that knew me just thought I was a complete lost cause. I mean, they thought I'd be dead by the time. They didn't think I'd live to see 24. And somehow, man, I mean, I had a freak accident when I was 19, 3 months after I overdosed, where I fell like 35 to 40 feet over this river embankment, which was like a cliff edge sort of, and busted my head wide open, and my side. I lost 90% of the blood in my body. I had brain damage and amnesia, and I was like urinating blood for 2 months. I had internal bleeding. I mean, I was so jacked up. And I won't even get into the whole thing of that, but it was just like, it just seemed like I had all these near death experiences and demonic attacks. I mean, man, I was like my soul was like a portal to the dark side at the, because when you're putting that stuff in you, it weakens your spirit, and it severs the connection of spirit, your spirit to source. And so these dark entities started to come into my life and really torment me and try to possess me and all kinds of stuff, man. I mean, it's no joke, and I'm not just saying that lightly. These are things I've actually experienced. And so yeah, it seemed pretty hopeless. But after like being on the streets for a few weeks, you start to think, well, maybe I need help, and it was cold, and a lot of people run to rehab during that time just for somewhere safe to stay. But I was just like, I knew I couldn't, like, I tried killing myself. I tried committing suicide. I woke up, I came back. I felt like I sucked so bad at life that I couldn't even successfully kill myself. Like what kind of loser was I? I can't even kill myself. I just felt like and I'm like, I felt trapped. Like I can't escape this. And so I didn't know what to do, man. And so I finally reached out for some help, and I started my journey with 2 garbage bags of clothes. And I went to a rehab for the fourth time, I believe it was. And I don't know, it was just at the point where people were like, well, what's going to be different this time, Ray? And I said, I have no words. I've said so many promises that I'm not even going to say anything is going to be different. My actions are just going to have to show that it's different. And little by little, I mean, I got, a little bit of clean time. I got 30 days, I got 60 days, I got 90 days, and I started to think like, man, maybe I can really do this, but I still wasn't sure I wanted it. So I just did everything they told me, like I went to the halfway house long term, as long as I could stay. I went to a 3/4 house and stayed there for a year. So I had about 2 years of like treatment. But when you've had like 17 years of addiction, you need that. I needed that time away. So yeah, it was like I learned a lot, man, through all that. It really pushed me to my limits, to my breaking points, to mental breakdowns. I really it just really took a lot out of me, but it also put a lot in me at the same time. So I'm really grateful for it, to be honest. Like back to that gratitude piece, like I think to be a good man, you have to go through some bad stuff in life. And that's what shapes a man to be good. It's like our experiences. And Jordan Peterson says this thing that become a monster and then learn how to control it. And that's part of what makes you a good man. And so I started to see the value in all those seemingly negative experiences. So and then I just felt this calling, like I'd take some commitments. This is getting into like where it's at today. So I started to take some commitments with like NA. I was in NA for years and doing speaking and taking meetings into rehabs and hospital detoxes. And Yeah, I just started to feel like so I was so grateful to have a chance at life that I shouldn't have had. And I started to think, man, maybe I can help some other people. And then I just felt a draw that this is what I have to do. This is like why I was brought through all this, was so it was like a training, a really rough training, but a training nonetheless to help other people. And yeah, there's a whole story. I like started an in-person recovery group, which I actually started over COVID, and it was online on Zoom at first. And then it became in person, and that's an interesting story how that even came to be. It wasn't even like it really anything I did. It just kind of fell into place for me that way. And I started to study like Bob Proctor material. And after having years of recovery based principles, I started to connect the dots with like Bob's teachings and the laws, the universal laws, and how everything happens by law, not by accident. And I thought, man, if I could like show some people that are going through what I went through, like these things, and help them to connect the pieces that traditional recovery kind of left open for me and unsolved. I thought, boy, that would really help a lot. So that kind of led me down this path of creating this group, and it's a Christian group. So there's Bible principles, and mindset principles, and then your standard recovery principles as well. And I kind of bring them all together, and we've had some really good results in that group. So that kind of brings me into present day now. We do that group every Monday night in the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area, in a city called Wexford at Northway Christian Community. It's Monday nights at 7 p.m. Anyone's welcome. You don't have to believe in God. And I think a lot of people, when they first get clean, don't believe, or they maybe hate God or think it's God's fault, or but you do need that higher power. There is a greater power than us, and so everyone has their own beliefs, but that's mine, and I've had some experiences that have really concreted that existence of God for me. So yeah, so anyway, I've just felt this pull, like I got to do this. This is what I'm here to do, and to help other people. I'm into personal development, so I mean, to me, there's no more rewarding uh, thing you could go after than helping someone to improve their life and seeing them get results, or having them come up to you 9 months later and say, "Hey, man, like I really appreciate what you did. I'm still clean today because you really helped me. There were some things you helped me to see, and I'm still going strong today." And it's like that's the payoff. That's why you do it. That's the pay right there. So yeah, I felt this pull for a while, and I've had my own setbacks and struggles, all self-induced, and getting in my own way. But I've come to the point now where it's like, okay, I'm ready to do this, and launch a recovery group on the Noble Goldman platform. So that'll be a global online recovery community, and I'm working on starting a fundraiser for it right now. Actually, get some money together to help market it, get the word out there, help with resources, things of that nature for the groups. It costs some money. So yeah, that's what we're in the process of doing, and very close to actually starting that fundraiser. It's going to be a GoFundMe. So I will definitely like share the links with people, for people that, and I'll have it broken down how the money will be used, things like that. It's not just like, just give me your money, like it's actually allocated for certain things, which will be in the video of the fundraiser. But it's all to benefit the still sick and suffering addicts and who are recovering. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at with it, Matt.
That's awesome, man. I love your story. It's such a powerful story on what you can do with the darkness to serve the world.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, life is interesting. Like if you relate it to nature, because I mean, we're natural organisms, just like a plant or a tree. And if you've got to plant a seed in the dirt and cover it up in darkness before it can start to take hold and grow. And it's got to fight to reach the light. And I found that to be like my experience and a lot of people's experience. It's like we'll feel like we're buried in darkness and in the dirt, and it's like, but that's where you start. That's where you start. And
Mhm.
yeah, you just got to keep watering that seed. And an idea is a spiritual seed, so we gotta water it with more ideas and good things, gratitude. There's so many persistence. There's so many things that go into it, but you just got to plant the seed. And really, that's my goal with a recovery group. Sure, I hope people come to know God. Absolutely. If they don't, hopefully I can help them improve their lives and live without the use of drugs. And that's great too, but yeah, I mean, my job is just to plant seeds, help people understand themselves better, and give them hope. Like you really don't have to use drugs every day or at all to have a happy life. Like you can actually get along without them, and I never believed that. Like if you had told me that 10 years ago, I just would have laughed in your face. Like there's no like human being can ever have fun or a good time or a happy life without putting a drug in them. Like, that was what I thought. That was what I really truly believed. And I thought I was destined to die a dope addict. Like that was my destiny in this life. And so my message is like that if you feel that way, that's not true. That's a lie that we've just chosen to believe, and we can choose to believe something else, and it'll come true as well. So we don't have to die in that state, or keep suffering. I mean, because man, I don't think any one of us ever, when we were kids, thought, oh, I want to be a professional dope addict, or I want to be homeless. Like, like that's what I made a career out of that. And it's like that was never on the list, that was never even a thought, but it just happened. And so I know nobody really wants that life. We might have convinced ourselves that that's all there is, but it's just a lie. And um yeah, it's just a perpetuating cycle of viciousness. And so I'm just trying to help people to kind of turn the page, see something different, and know that there is hope, like true hope. Like you really can. Like, man, if I can do it from nothing, from rock bottom, or like the cold floor of a jail cell, like you start there with nothing sometimes. And if I can do it, I know anyone can. I mean, because I was a complete lost cause, man. Like I shouldn't even be here talking to you guys today.
That's what I
S-
wanted to touch on right there. You need to change that piece of your story right now, man. Don't say shouldn't be here. You're here for the reason that you're doing right now. That's the reason you're here. It's not a shouldn't piece. I could say the same thing. I should have died when I was an infant
mhm.
with my heart surgery and everything, but it's not true. We're here for the purpose that we're serving right this moment.
I agree. I agree. No, you're right, man. You're right. There is a purpose, and I have learned, because when you start to look back on those experiences, especially like you've had a similar experience. I don't know, Joe, if you ever have, but when you come face to face with death, and then you kind of get past that, and you look back, you can't help but think, well, I might there has to be a purpose, especially if it's repeatedly. You've like you've cheated death repeatedly, especially it's like, man, there or you try to take your life, and you wake up, you can't, and there's like there has to be a reason why I'm still here. So yes, I totally agree. And I'll watch how I phrase that in the future, because you're absolutely right. So but yeah, but I mean, in the moment it seemed like I shouldn't be, but you're right, should be. I am for a reason. So why waste it? I think it'd be like the biggest sin, or missing the mark of life, if you want to define it that way, to have a life, and then do nothing with it, let alone to have many chances at life and then do nothing with it. I mean, what else are you gonna do? It's like just sit there like a bump on a log and suck in the air and do nothing. Like do something productive, make some kind of, even if you just help one person, I mean, something. So but there is a purpose, and a greater one to serve. And I mean, let's face it, I don't think I haven't come across anyone yet, I don't think that I can ever recall, that hasn't been affected by addiction in some way. Like someone they know, a friend they had that died, a partner, someone in their family, a cousin, a brother, a sister, a mother, a father, whatever. Everybody knows someone who has had this problem in life, and um, the roots of it are very deep, and we don't realize it. So, and there's not enough people. There's more addicts than there are people helping to people to recover. So like the scales are tipped in the wrong direction. We need to start to, there's a great need for people to step up and help addicts. So and if you have a calling in your heart, you feel a pull to do that. I mean, I'd say, definitely do it, because we need to try to start to heal the problem. I don't think we're going to get rid of it. I'm pretty sure drugs are going to be here for the long term. But if we can educate people and help them understand who and what they are, and that they don't need that and why, and that they can have better lives without it, then it kind of seems like it's not really worth it anymore. Like in my life, I'm like, man, why would I want to go back to that? It just doesn't have the same, appeal to it. It's like getting high is ruined for me, you
That
know?
makes sense.
Like if I were to get high, I'd feel like crap about myself, like, and that's what happens when some people relapse. Like I've had my fair share of relapses, and then you feel even worse about yourself. And that just keeps you isolated and takes you back out even worse, So, but we're all human, and unfortunately, relapse can be a part of recovery, actually. And I think some people should hear
Yeah,
that.
I
Yeah, like it
agree.
doesn't have to be, but a lot of people it is as part of their recovery, you
Well,
know?
Joe, I know you can relate a little bit to this story. Why don't you,
Yeah. Uh,
yeah,
for that last little bit right there, let me just tell you this. If you can quit on your first attempt, you are fucking amazing.
Mm,
Truly amazing. Because I've quit many things in my life. Cigarettes was more addicting than some of the drugs I've taken, but I've spent many years fighting that battle, fighting to quit, fighting those inner demons. And like you were saying, Ray, it's easy to fall back into that addiction when you don't take that action to do something about it. And so many of us don't realize that we have the ability to heal ourselves. We're just too afraid to ask. We're too afraid to be vulnerable. We're too afraid to look weak in front of others. And yeah, it sucks. Don't get me wrong. It does suck. But the more you do it, the greater you feel, the more you heal, the less you want to do those drugs. And like you said, you know, looking at some of these things being offered, like going to a friend's house who still does stuff, and it's like, nah, dude, I don't want to feel like crap tomorrow. Yeah, it'd be great and have fun. Woohoo, relive the old days. But
mm,
I don't want to feel like crap. I don't want to have that self hate for who knows, like when I was doing some of the harder stuff, it was a solid 2 weeks. Well, not you, but me. I literally hated myself for a few weeks. And then when I started feeling better, I'm like, hey, let's go do something more. And it was that never ending cycle of rinse and repeat. And, I fully agree. You're going to fail multiple times in your quitting process. Don't focus on that. Keep focusing on the process, on getting off of whatever it is that claims your addiction, claims your desire, helps you forget about those painful moments in life that you're using that drug or that alcohol or whatever it may be to forget about that. I mean, there's people addicted to sex. You're technically can be addicted to sugar or coffee. So addictions are real and they run rampant throughout not only our country but the world. And there's places, I think it's Denmark, that has legalized all of the drugs because that helped to take away from that rebellious mentality of, oh, I'm going to go rebel and go get wasted. And I think that really helped, and I think a lot of other countries should follow suit with that, because that would take away some of that thrill, some of that rebellion mentality. And Ray, we do need you. We do need what you're bringing. And in my quitting process, I thought about maybe that's the way I was supposed to go. And I still may go and get certified to do it. So it's something that I can assist with, because it is like you, it's something that was, I don't want to use the word plague, but it plagued most of my life, most of my childhood. You brought up, I don't know how to have fun without being high. I still struggle with that sometimes, and I've been clean for many years. And it's, what do I do? What do we do on a Friday night? Well, now I do Reiki. Now I do breath work. Now I meditate. I may go sit outside and light a fire and just sit there and drink water, enjoying the flames. The crackling of the burning wood, the stars up above. Like there's more you can do out there, but you have to be willing to want to do something different.
yeah. Yeah. If you want something you never had, you got to do something you've never done? So, yeah, you said a couple things there, Joe, that, I get asked this question a lot is like, what was it? What was your turning point essentially, or like, what was it for you that made you want to quit or quit? And, like you said, so like we'll get down on ourselves and think real low of ourselves, and we care what other people think, especially like when people know we're into that and we've been doing good for a period of time and we relapse, and now we care what people think, and because we've let people down. And for me, it was just the point. I got to the point where it was just so I was just so empty. My spirit was so dead, that I actually just didn't care anymore what anybody thought. Like I had to get to that point where it was just like, well, this is where I'm at. This is what it is. This is how I feel. This is what I've done. And I just had to start spewing all that out. Like I had to physically talk about it with other people. And there's something that's super healing in that process. When you start hearing yourself say this stuff, it's actually you're like starting to heal yourself. You know, you're dumping all the baggage off. You're getting all that. You're like puking up all the garbage. Really, it's like a purging. And then you feel lighter. You know, and little by little you get lighter and lighter. And even things like you were saying, just sitting outside and you know enjoying the fire, looking at the stars. Like you don't notice any of that stuff when you're high. Like it doesn't hold any value because you're numb and so even just like smelling the earth after the rain, you know, like simple things that your senses start to like come alive and you start to notice the reality we live in. And because when you're on drugs, it's different, it's a whole different reality. You're in a different realm, you know, like completely. And you know, we say like I know we're all on the same page with like energy, everything's energy, everything vibrates, everything is a frequency. um, so I had this realization a couple years ago. So so if we are a receiving and transmitting entity or machine, however you want to word it, being, and we can adjust our frequency on command by our thoughts, right? So I realized that when I put a substance in me. We'll just call it substance A, whatever that is. That substance, by law, has its own frequency, right? And so when I'm putting that in me and my body is sucking that up, I'm consuming it, I become the frequency. My body is going to start to match the frequency of that substance. And therefore, now I can't be anything else other than the frequency of that substance. And that's why I believe we feel real low on certain depressants and real high on uppers, you know, stimulants. And so, but you're like locked into that. And if you're constantly putting that in your body, that's where you're at, and you're going to attract everything that frequency has on it. And when I like had that realization, I was just like, whoa, like, so when I put this thing in me, it's taking over, you know, it's taking over. It's I am that and it is me. And that's all there is, you know, and it's like, whoa. So you no longer have control of your raising your vibration or low, you know, you're at the mercy of this other frequency, this other energy. So yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to share that because it was a
Yeah.
big eye opener for me.
I love that. It's the same thing with food, though, too. It's like you put good food in you, you're
Exactly.
gonna feel better. If you put shitty food in you, you're gonna feel crappy. Like this is life. Like this is the way everything works. If you exercise, then do move your body will stay flexible, stay more limber. I mean, or limber up if you've had accidents and whatnot, and handicaps and stuff. Obviously, are things. So there is a way to maximize your being by doing those exercises, putting the right stuff in your body, or even your mind, putting the right books in your body, the right listen to the right things for your mind. Like I've
Mm,
really gotten to the point. I think it was Brian Tracy I first heard it from. Like when you're riding around in your car and you have the radio on, it's like bubble gum for your brain, right? But
mm,
if you listen to good audios, if you listen to good podcasts, if you listen to cool videos, or enhance yourself in some way, shape, or form, and you've turned your car into a university, essentially, like Car Time University or something like that. I don't even know, but I think that that's super important. That piece that you just pointed out, that what it is that you put in is what you will put out.
yeah. End of story, right? Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, and I mean we can flip it all into a positive too. So you know, that same drive to like go get drugs or go get high or party, if we could just like replace the drug and high part with something positive, like building a business, you know, You got to be careful though, because you can easily replace one addiction for another and your life still be unmanageable and crappy, you know? So I'm not saying
Sure.
to exactly do it like that, but you can, the traits of an addict can actually be very useful in life, when you're not using drugs and when you're, you know, working on recovery. So you can actually, because the law of polarity, right? Everything happens by law of polarity. There's always a flip side, just like my dark situation of addiction, of a life of addiction. Well, now I can help people to come out from that. That's the positive to it. That's the flip side. So
That's the light.
exactly,
There's a
exactly.
duality to everything. Everything has a duality. Like you,
Yes.
I went through that dark night, and that night lasted many of years. And now here I am. I'm seeing the polar opposite of that. Like you said, living hell. And my experience was pretty damn horrible. And seeing that opposite side, it's amazing. And it takes a moment to get there. But like you said, with all of that vibrational, output around your input around you, what are you bringing in? What is your food? What is your music? What are your substances? What is your self-talk? What are your friends? What are your family? If everything and everyone is bringing you into a low vibrational state, get the fuck out of there. Stop eating
Hmm.
that. Stop putting that in your body. Stop putting that in your ears. If you want to live a better life, you have to make changes, and those changes are going to be tough, but they can be done.
Yep.
Form them into
Yeah.
habits, essentially.
Yeah. And that's, you know, that was it right there, Matt. I mean, habit and, you know, I think we all have heard that addiction is a bad habit, right? I mean, that seems pretty basic that anyone can understand. And so when I started to understand what a paradigm was, from Bob's teachings, a set of behaviors, and habits that have nearly exclusive control over your results. That's what the paradigm is. It's all subconscious programming. So I realized, and I didn't know this going through recovery. It was afterwards I learned that holy crap, that's what I did. Because I mean, to go from being on the streets and shooting dope every day to where I'm at now, there obviously had to be a paradigm shift, like a massive shift in how I view myself, my daily habits and routines. And that's the paradigm. So, you know, I hear people say, like, and I'm talking all kinds of people that are in their 60s, people in their 20s, all walks of life. I keep doing this and I just don't know why. And no one has ever been able to give me an answer. I don't understand. And I'm like, oh, well, I got the answer for you. It's your paradigm, you know? And they're just like, what's a paradigm? And then you start to tell them, and it's like things start to click. So that's the kind of gaps I'm talking about, like filling in for people. Like you have to change the paradigm, and by law, you know, the law of sex transmutation, gender transmutation, everything has a gestation period, the law of gestation. So that spiritual seed of the idea, I want to get clean and live a happy life free from the use of drugs and alcohol, that's an idea, that's a seed, that's a spiritual seed, and we don't know how long that can take. We can do things to speed it up, but like, because it's really important, because along the way we get discouraged and it's like we're not seeing results, and well, I'm doing all the right things, like my family still doesn't trust me, I've been clean for 3 months, you know, can't they see? And we think that all these things should start to change so rapidly, but it's growing, you know, it's growing in the unseen places, and we just have to have faith. And just one day you keep doing these things, the right things, take the next right step, and there's always the best move. It might not be, you might not be in a good situation, but there's always a best move. Both moves might lead to a place that you don't want to be, but there's still a best move. And so if you just make the next right step, and you just keep doing that, eventually one day it's like you wake up, and it's like you almost don't even recognize that it's changed, you know? It's like, whoa, it's just different. And all those years or months, it was like it just didn't seem like anything was getting better, but you just keep at it, and then one day it's like, huh, it's better. You know, it's like, whoa, like you missed it, like where when there's like no line of demarcation between one level and the next, just like Bob teaches, everything's connected. Like boiling water to steam, you can't pinpoint where it like you don't see where it turns. It's just like invisible and it just happens in front of you, you know? And it's like that with our goals or getting clean. It's like it just there's just a point that it just kind of happens. And if you blink, you miss it, you know? So you just got to keep with that persistence and just relentless persistence and just knowing, you know, having that belief that it's gonna get better. I mean, I've been homeless clean, guys. I had almost 5 years clean and I ended up homeless again, lost my job, was literally on the streets again, man. I luckily I had a friend who let me stay at their place for a couple months. But you know, like even clean, it was like some of that old, and I'm still working through some things, you know, like I've been clean 8 years plus, and it's still like the beginning, you know, like there's still lingering junk and garbage that I'm trying to process and clear out and replace in my unlearn things, you know. You could put it a million different ways, but yeah, I mean, it's like, whoa, man, like I've been clean for almost 5 years and here I am homeless. Like it's understandable when you're shooting dope every day. Like that kind of comes with the territory. Yes, of course you're homeless. You freaking spend all your money on drugs and you're like, you rob everyone around you. Of course you're homeless. But when you've been clean and trying to do the right thing for years, it's like, whoa, man. So there's something I'm doing that isn't working, you know? And I really had to take personal responsibility for my life. And that's still a work in progress. You know, I still am working on that. So, but it sure is a whole lot better than it ever has been. So you just keep going, you know, all we got's today.
I think that's awesome, man, because that's like the universe asking you, "Are you sure you want to go this path and not this path?" Like when it puts you back into that situation, it's like now here's your choice. You get to choose, and you chose the right one in this case, as opposed to going back the other direction, which is good because then you have to repeat another cycle.
Yeah. Oh God. No, man. I don't know if I could do it again. It's
Well,
just
don't.
so yeah, yeah. Yeah. But you know what helped me through that? There was a saying, and this is why support groups is so important to be an advocate because, like, you cannot do it alone. You can try, and some of you maybe listening to this have tried for years to do it alone because, especially if you're a guy, a man, you know, we maybe have been raised like men handle their own problems. You can do this alone. You're supposed to do it alone, and that was a lie I had to overcome. Yeah, because my dad was a Marine. He raised me like that. You know, men handle their own stuff, and so I thought addiction was like this is my thing. I have to handle this. And man, I that's one thing where just need support. And so anyway, through my support, I had a sponsor, and he used to tell me like as long as you don't get high your situation has to get like it must get better. As long as you don't pick up the first one, it will get better. And so when I was like sleeping on the floor underneath the dining room table of some other person's home, I just kept saying that to myself. All right, as long as you don't get high, this absolutely high, it must get better. Just, you know, make the next best move. And that was like finding a guy in recovery who had a landscaping business and hired me part-time under the table. And now I was able to like keep my car. And I'm like, great. It's because I like a $500 car payment a month, homeless, no job, couldn't collect unemployment, you know, and that was just my car. And I'm like, man, I'm like, as long as I hold my car, I'll have a place to sleep, you know, if I need it. And so I had to figure out like quickly how to earn some money. I mean, I was like completely desolate, man, you know, and but it was like, okay, if I don't get high, I'll be able to hold at least a job, like even if it's just a you know a bust in my butt landscaping, whatever. At least I got that. And so, but if I get high, I'm not going to want to go to work, and I'm going to be a bum, and I'm going to get kicked out of this place I'm staying at because they're going to see I'm not doing anything to help my situation. So why would they want to help me, you know? And so it's like as long as you don't go back there, like it has to get better. So I just held on to that idea. Honestly, that idea was like a saving grace for me. Like if I don't pick up the first one, it will just get better. You know, no matter what the situation is, it's gonna get better. And it did, man. It did. It's getting better every day, you know?
That is awesome. I think we will have to end on that.
Yeah.
And I thank you so much for coming on here, Ray, because it's really special what you're doing, and I'm excited to see you really get that off the ground. So, anyone watching this, please share this in the hopes that we can help Ray get the fundraising done so that he can get his global community open because it's going to help so many people around the world, and I can see so much magic with this. So keep shining that light, Ray. Keep doing exactly what you're doing. You are taking the right next step.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that, brother. And I appreciate your support, guys, and having me on and helping to get the word out there. It means a lot. So thank you guys both. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ray. And definitely throw us that GoFundMe link when you got it created, because I definitely want to throw it all over my personal Facebook, social medias, and all that, because I walked that walk too, and it wasn't fucking easy. And I know you said you need help to do it. I unfortunately went it alone, and it would have went a lot better and a lot quicker, I think, if I had those people that could have helped me walk through. So
Yeah.
I definitely want to see those people out there have somebody that can help them walk through. And I know you're the man that can assist. I may be able to assist a little, but
Awesome,
definitely
man.
want to get you out there to help get this created so we can get more and more on board and see this take off, not only throughout America, but around the world.
Yeah, definitely, Joe. That's the vision, man. So I appreciate it, guys. Yep. I will definitely send you guys that link and it'll be up. You guys will see it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today, everybody. Have a wonderful day.